Hey guys, Gare here. Struggling Olympia here. Let's see how long this lasts. Mwah. Not long. She says, Daddy, I'm much more interested in this rat in your pocket. Okay. That was 15 seconds of Olympia. Okay. It is November the 10th, I believe. Sunday, the day before Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day weekend to everyone. I'm just going to come and do a brief video to talk to you a bit about, to share my thoughts on the film The Lighthouse, which I have seen twice in the theaters now. I saw it a couple of weeks ago when it first came out, and then I saw it a couple of days ago again with a friend who was going and didn't want to go to the movies by himself, and so I tagged along. And I enjoyed seeing it the second time. Watching movies a second time in the theater is not something that I do a lot. If the movie is very, very good, if I have time, if it's one of those rare days when I don't have a lot of other pressing things to do on my schedule, then, yes, it's a good film. I'll go see it again. I was able to enjoy the filmmaking. This is a movie directed by Robert Eggers, who many of you know did The Witch a couple of years ago, which I did like very much, even though I thought the ending could have been, a little better, a little different, and the film overall would have been better. But I did like it very much. This film, I think I liked much more. And I'm very excited about Eggers as a director, and I will be checking out his future works. I'm looking forward to, whatever he does in the future. There will be at least, one person standing in line, and of course a lot more than one person. I think he's just a superb filmmaker. And The Lighthouse, I'm not going to try to do an overall arching review. I don't really do reviews. I will share some thoughts on it. This will be somewhat spoilery. I will be talking about some aspects of this film that you might not want to know about before seeing it, but I think this is one of those rare films that's difficult to spoil. There's a lot to unpack with this movie. There's a lot going on, both in action and in psychology and what I call filmic. I'm using air quotations a lot today. Filmic meaning the director using a lot of cinema devices brilliantly, I think, to tell this story. I'm very interested in researching how Eggers approached this film, how he filmed it. First of all, the film is in black and white, which we know that's very rare nowadays to have a major film with a major director, major stars in black and white. That's kind of a no-no, but it happens. It happens on rare occasion. I think Cold War was the last movie that I saw that was black and white, and that was superb as well. The aspect ratio of it is, probably most of you aren't, you hear aspect ratio and you're like, oh, well, so I won't get in, that's for us film geeks, but basically the image is a box, and you've got the bars on the side, and you don't see a lot of films filmed with this aspect ratio nowadays. But if it does look familiar to you, it is because a lot of silent films and very old movies from the teens, the 20s, and 30s are filmed in this exact same aspect ratio, or very close aspect ratio. So basically it's box-like, which is appropriate for this story because this, as you know, as you probably know by watching the trailer and whatever you've gleaned about the movie since its release a few weeks ago, Willem Dafoe is the old lightkeeper. At one time, apparently, he was a sailor. He became a lightkeeper, and he is in charge on this. I don't even know if you would call this an island. They refer to it as the Rock. It's kind of like what it is. It's like a series of rocks, that the lighthouse is on. Robert Pattinson who is a young man who is coming to working in the Lighthouse for the first time, and they don't know each other, they've never met. And his background, he's kind of quiet, he's kind of taciturn, and like something has gone on with him that he's just kind of shut down, somewhat repressed, quite withdrawn, especially at first. And Defoe is the more grandiose, histrionic character. In this film, he quotes reams of dialogue and that are quite poetic and put you in mind of Melville, of Moby Dick. He looks and sounds. Of course, Defoe is one of the great Paramount actors working today. He is, I don't have. That's not news. That's not a news flash. Everyone knows that. He is fantastic in this movie. It's a great performance. I don't know how he is not Oscar nominated for this. As I think also Robert Pattinson. If you are one of those people who don't like Robert Pattinson or his former paramour, Kristen Stewart, because the whole Twilight thing, that franchise back in those days, and that was the rage. Please get over that, because these guys, since Twilight, have done some superb work, really amazing, superb work in independent cinema. They're great, and Pattinson in this movie, The Lighthouse, is fantastic. I think he is every bit the equal of Defoe as far as like the performance, and he doesn't have Defoe's experience and that background, of course, yet. He's still, I think he's quite young. He's 30ish, early 30s, but he's amazing. He's fantastic in this movie, and I really I've seen him in several films. He was in the Claire Denis film. I'm blanking out on the name. Was it Still Life? If you have not seen him in Good Time, which came out a couple of years ago, Pattinson is amazing in that movie. He's fantastic. I think that his performance in Good Time, which he was not Oscar nominated for and should have been, it was a huge oversight, is the best, certainly the best male performance of 2017. So if you have not seen Robert Pattinson and Good Time, came out 2 years ago, do see that film, and for nothing else, just his performance. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to his Batman. I'm the most excited about a Batman movie that I've been in many, many years. I'm really going to say this. I'll get grief for it. The Christopher Nolan films, except for the first one, really weren't my thing. The last couple of Batman outings with Ben Affleck were just, I just really couldn't stand them. I just really did not like those films at all, and Ben Affleck was not Batman to me. I know a lot of people liked him. I did not. So I'm looking forward to his Batman, just if nothing else, just to see what he'll do with this. And when people criticize his Batman, I know I'm getting off topic, but I'm old enough to remember whenever Michael Keaton was cast as Batman 30-something years ago, and the outrage was incredible. The hue and cry was amazing. It sort of echoes to this day. But of course, he proved everyone wrong, and now he's a lot of people's favorite Batman of all time. He is mine. So I'm eager to see what Pattinson's future does and everything, and in particular his Batman. But to get back to the film, Defoe's character and Pattinson's character, and I won't get into their names because there's a little bit of play about the names in the film, so that can get confusing. So I'll just refer to them as Defoe and Pattinson. They are very sort of close-lipped at first, with Defoe's character, being the sort of grungy, presence and talker, and the more outgoing one. There's very much a sort of master and slave. I don't know if you call it master and slave, but Defoe works up in the lighthouse with the light, and Pattinson is doing all the grunt work. And the realism in this film, as he goes about, climbing and digging and hauling, is just in this horrible weather, is just amazing. The photography is amazing. The filming, I mean, there's one scene that's so horrible it's laughable. He's in charge of emptying their chamber pots, and he goes to a ledge, and the wind is blowing, and he empties them, and it all comes back on him. It's just stuff like that. It's just sort of like you just sort of cringe and laugh at the same time. It's so horrible. But the relationship develops as they learn more about each other. It comes out, and they start drinking, and more is revealed. The relationship kind of becomes closer and closer. These wonderful Defoe long monologues. There's 2 or 3 scenes where Defoe has these monologues that just sort of, you're wondering, where's this going to end? It's almost like he's on stage playing a one character, doing a one-man show and delivering these reams of dialogue. You're just really kind of like, cut, something, Pattinson, say something else now. But it's brilliant, and it is revealed that Pattinson had killed a young man that he worked with when he was working in logging before he came to work at the Lighthouse. He assumed his identity in the hopes of just starting over, starting fresh. He begins. The film is basically about madness. These guys. A great storm arrives on the Rock, and they are apparently they're not going to be picked up. They're only supposed to be doing this for a few weeks, and they miss the boat quite literally. They're stuck on this island. They begin to go insane. They basically begin to torture each other physically, psychologically, and at points it gets quite rough. This movie will not be for everyone unless you're someone who is very into, quite serious cinema, and you can take some rough stuff. It may not be for you, but if you like great films, great acting, great directing, great photography, I think that this film will absolutely be for you. And I wanted to say that the film is not, to me, it is not a horror film, as some reviews are describing it. I didn't feel like it was a horror film. To me, it's a psychological drama, I would say. It has sort of some horror film aspects to it in the filming, in the photography, in the sets. When I was watching this film the second time, I was remembering that one of Eggers' projects that he was wanting to do that hasn't happened yet is another film version of Nosferatu, the great vampire story, and I think with Pattinson, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Defoe has played that character before in Shadow of the Vampire. But I believe it was with Pattinson. He wanted to do Nosferatu, and I was just thinking as I was watching parts of this film, I could just so see him doing a film of Nosferatu. So that is not his next project. He already has another film lined up, and that I believe Defoe is going to be in again, and so they're going to work together again soon, and that's very encouraging. So. A lot to unpack with this movie. I can't get into everything, I think that if you love serious cinema, like I said, great acting, great directing, go see this film, go see it in the theater. This is your chance to support, low budget, independent, great cinema. And on that note, I just want to say that this is a very good period for movies at the theater. If you're one of those people, and I have nothing against tentpole movies, comic book adaptation films at all, They are cinema as far as I'm concerned. But right now, if you're someone who says, well, why aren't they doing original stories? Why are they doing all these sequels? Why are they doing all these remakes? Why are these franchises just go on from one generation to the next? Why can't we see something new and original? Right now, you have some original and new films in the theater. This is your chance to, put your money where your mouth is and support these films, and you will see more of them at the theater if you do that. So that's what I try to do. And I'm someone who loves most movies, not all movies, but most movies. Right now, and I know we're at the end of the year, the typical award season where, the award contenders are released, and of course that's a part of it. Some of these movies I don't think will be in the running for the Oscars necessarily, maybe not in a big way, but right now in the theaters, guys, we have, in addition to The Lighthouse, we also have Harriet. We also have Jojo Rabbit. We have the Judy Garland bio with Renee Zellweger, Judy. We have Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. You can see that on Netflix and in some theaters. We have the superb Parasite from South Korea, from one of my favorite contemporary directors. We have Motherless Brooklyn, which I've also seen and is very, very, very good. And of course, we have The Lighthouse, and there's I'm sure there's probably a few others that I'm not thinking of, but go see these movies. This is a chance to see something new, something original, something interesting. You will not be sorry. They're all good films. So this is your chance to support the original cinema, the new cinema that you want to see, and not just the same thing over and over again. Trust me, you have never seen a movie like The Lighthouse before. You have never. Even though, if you're a film connoisseur, you're very familiar with film history, you will see some things that, there's a little homage, there are echoes, very interesting things done that refer to earlier cinema. I'm very interested in, as I said earlier, in researching how Eggers went about actually filming the movie. I've read that he used vintage cameras, I think 3 vintage cameras from different eras of film history. The film is in black and white. It does have that silent movie aspect ratio. I will, just a very quick point I want to make. Whenever I see black and white movies now that are meant to be filmed and look like movies from the teens, the 20s, the 30s, it's never quite the same. They may be very good at what they do. It does pay homage. But ultimately, I've never seen a great recreation of an old film as far as like when it seemed that someone was really trying to do this. Now, what Eggers has done here is its own thing. There is some echo to cinema past, but he's also done something new and original, and I think that's what we should be aiming for, really. I just think he's a superb filmmaker, and as I said earlier, I will be looking, very eagerly anticipating his future work. So, anything else I wanted to say about this film? I'll just look at my notes quickly. Reality, fantasy, madness mix. Madness, symbolism dips into fantasy and surrealism in the filming, so I pretty much went over all of that. Do see this movie whenever you get a chance. If you've seen it, do let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. I hope everyone's having a great Veterans Day weekend. Please honor our veterans, the veterans in your family, your friends, or yourself. Thank you for your service. And everybody have a great and safe weekend, and I will speak to you again soon. Thank you.